We are on 6b by the two dots. So we're on 6b by the two dots. Vav Amud Beis, V'she'ein led the Shalish Stefanos. First word in line is Tanu Rabbanan. So V'she'ein led Shalish Stefanos. So if you go back to the Mishnah, that one of the invalidations of a sukkah is it does not contain three walls. So it has to contain three walls. Up to it doesn't need a fourth wall, it needs three walls. The Tanu Rabbanan, Shtaim Kil Chasan V'shlishis Afilu Tefach. We previously learned that when we say three walls, we mean that it doesn't necessarily have to be exactly three. It could be two Kil Chasa, two walls with the permissible length, which is at least seven tefachim and a little bit. But the third wall can even be as little as a tefach. And now, up until the next amud, we're going to be talking about this exact case. How do we know that the halacha is that you need a third wall? And also, where exactly is this third little wall placed? Okay, Reb Shimon Omer. Reb Shimon says that is the Rabbanan. Reb Shimon Omer shloisha kilchas l'revisa fil tefach. Reb Shimon argues. Reb Shimon says no. You need three walls according to the right with the correct halachic proportions, and the fourth wall has to be a tefach. So you have a machlekes. The Tanakama, the Rabbanan say that you need two walls plus a little, and Reb Shimon says no. You need three walls plus a little. My please. What is the machlekes? Where do they argue? What is the source and the reason for the argument between the Rabbanan and Reb Shimon? Rabbanan Savri Yesh, and now we're about to go through about 5 different ways to understand the source of the argument between them. Tan Rabbanan Yesh Emil Messiris, that Rabbanan write that we're going to see in a minute that the verses that when we analyze the verses in the Torah, we go with how it was. We go with how it was written. Reb Shimon Omer Yesh Emil Mikra. When we analyze the verses and the words in the Torah, we go with how we read them, how we verbally read them. Rabbanan Sarvi Yesh Emil Messiris. The Rabbanan hold that we go with how it's written. And in the Torah, we have a pasuk, Basukos Teshu Shivasem, in the famous pasuk. And in that pasuk it says Basukos once. It says Basukos a second time. And at the end of it says Basukos. Hurricane Arba, and that's how it's written. If you have on the side of the Gemara, in Aleph, it brings on the pasuk. It says Basukos Teshu Shivas Yamim without the vav, and then later on it says Basukos again at the end of that verse, and the verse continues, and then it says Basukos with the vav. So we have 3 times that it says Sukkos, twice without the vav, it's missing. One without the vav, Hurricane Arba. So the 2 ways to write Sukkos in the singular is each count 1. So we have 1 and 2. But Sukkos is plural. That's 3, 4. So we have Sukkos that tells us 1 time, Sukkos that tells us a second time, and then the plural Sukkos is 4. So that counts for 2. So we have 4. So we learn from there you should have 4 walls. Now, no, not so simple, because Dalchad Lagufe, 1 we need for the actual one of those words we need to tell us they have to build a sukkah. We can't use it for a drasha. We can't use it to teach us a lesson from other than the fact that you actually have to have a sukkah. So we have to remove 1, and we're left with 3. Pasul klasa, we're left with 3. Yeah.
I'm sorry. It took me a minute to start my computer to get to the right place. Please tell me again the page and line number.
Yes, so we're on 6b, and we're about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, around 7 lines from the 2 dots.
Okay.
The first word line is Lahu Tlasa. Lamed Hevav, Lahu Tlasa.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So now we say that we're going to remove, we're down to 2 walls. So we're down to 3, sorry. Dal Chad Lagufe, Pasulu Tlasa, we're left with 3. Shtaim Kil Chasan, Va'asa. Now, so therefore, that's how we know you need 3, you need 3 legal walls, according to Reb Shimon. Because of pasuk we had 4, we removed one learning, but we lost 1 word to learn from because we need to learn that there's a sukkah to begin with. So we have 3. The halacha l'maishi misina came and told us that the third wall, the last wall, which in our case is the third wall, does not have to be a full third wall. Rather, it could be a tefach by itself. Rav Shimon Savar, but Rav Shimon holds Yish Aim Mikra. Rav Shimon is going to go with the idea that we go with how we read it, and when we read it, we read it sukkos with a vav plural. So therefore, Basukais, basukais, basukais. 2, 4, 6. Each are plural. We have three. We have each are plural, so that's at least 2. Each word, we have 3 words. 3 times 2 is 6. So we start off with the ability to work with 6. We have 6. Now we have to remove one word to teach us. You need a sukkah to begin with, the halacha of a sukkah. So we're left with pasul arba. So remove one word, and we're only left with 2. We're only left with 4 now. Shalish kil chasan, asel kil chasan, shalish kil chasan. 3 of them, pasul arba. Shalish kil chasan, asel kil chasan, v'grasa l'revis u'v'kim tatafach. So comes along the halacha. So we have 4 to begin with. So 3 is going to be like the according that you need the 3 is for the halacha, and comes along the halacha l'maishem misinai and tells you that you need and halacha l'maishem misinai tells us that the 4th wall doesn't have to be a full 4th wall, rather it could be a tefach by itself. So that's how the first way to learn. The first way to learn the machlekes is that how many instances of limud do we have to play with? According to the Rabbanan, it's 4. 4 to begin with. You have to remove 1 because you needed to teach us sukkahs to begin with. We're left with 3. It tells us that the 3rd wall doesn't have to be a 4th third wall. So 2 plus a little. According to Reb Shimon, we have 6 to begin with. All because we go by how we read it. To all plural, 3 times 2 is going to be 6. Remove one of the words because we have to go ahead and learn the halacha of sukkah to begin with. The mitzvah of sukkah. We're left with 4. The halacha comes and teaches you that the 4th wall doesn't have to be a complete wall. So 3 plus 1. 3 plus a very little bit. That's the first way to learn. Now, Vibai Seim, another way to learn the machlekes between Rabbanan, another source for the machlekes in Rabbanan, how did the rabbis learn that you need 2 plus a little? And Reb Shimon says you need 3 plus a little. The Kuliyama Yesh Aim Lemikra. Everyone goes according to the idea that when we analyze the psukim, we go with how we read it, not how it's written. So that means we have 6 because we read it pesukais, which is plural, and therefore that's going to leave us with 3 times 2. So what's the machlekes between the two? The machlekes are going to be that what's the starting point? How much do we start with? Mars savar schacha ba'ikra. Mars. So everyone agrees we have 6. Then everyone also agrees you need one of the psukim, one of the words to teach us that the mitzvah sukkah by itself. So we're down. Everyone agrees we're down to 4. So where does machlekes come in? Mars savar schacha ba'ikra. That one of them, that the rabbis are going to go hold on it, that the schach also needs a limud. How do we know schach from? So we had 4. Originally we had 6. We have to remove one of them, one of the complete words to teach the mitzvah sukkah. We're down to 4. So now 4 to play with. 4 extra instances of sukkah mentioned in the Torah. One of them we need to learn schach from. So we move that. We're down to 3. And then Allah that tells us the 3rd wall doesn't have to be complete. Mar Savar, Schach Alai Bayikra. Reb Shimon holds no, we don't need a pasuk for schach, and therefore we could be left with the original 4. And Halakha B'Shina teaches us that we don't need a 4th wall completely, so we need just a little bit. So that's the second way to learn it. A third way to learn it. Everyone agrees that we work with the way it's written. The way it's written, we only have 4 to work with, and remove 1 to teach us the mitzvah sukkah to begin with. So what's the argument? The Halacha Mishnah came to deduct. So everyone agrees if we only have 3. The rabbis say the Halacha Mishnah came to deduct that the 3rd wall doesn't have to be complete. So that's how the rabbis learn 2 plus a little. But the Reb Shimon holds that the Halacha Mishnah comes to add on a more of a stringency that we only have 3. And the Halacha Mashiach comes to teach you need also a little bit of a 4th wall. So that's the 3rd way to understand the machlekes. The 4th way, everyone agrees that it comes to the Halacha Mashiach came to reduce the amount of walls. And whatever number you're left with, if it's 3, you'll need a little bit of a 3. If it's 4, you'll need a little bit of a 4. And everyone agrees that we go with the way it's written, which is 4. Machlekes, do we need the original? So everyone agrees we only have 4, and everyone agrees the Halacha Mishnah is going to go downwards. So what's the machlekes? Halacha is we said that everyone, even usually till now, when we say even though everyone agrees on this 4, we have to remove 1 to teach us the actual mitzvah sukkah. So that's the machlekes. Do we need that? Do we have to remove 1 of them and utilize it for the actual mitzvah of sukkah? So one holds Marsava Dereshes Tchilas. So the rabbis hold we do need one of the instances that we could one of the extra sukkahs for the lachem to teach us sukkah itself. Therefore, we left it 3. Lachem Mishinai says the third wall doesn't have to be complete. Omar Savar, Reb Shimon holds ein dereshas tchilos. We don't need the original one for anything. Therefore, we left it 4. Lachem Mishinai tells us the fourth wall doesn't have to be complete. So we just went through 5 different ways. What is the exact argument, the source of machlokes between the rabbis and Reb Shimon? Okay. Now, Rav Masna, Amar Matayma de Reb Shimon. So Rav Masna is going to go to a whole different. So that's 5. Now, but they were all based on the idea of something's extra in the Torah. Do we analyze it with the way it's written, or do we analyze it with the way it's read? Plus, Halacha Mishnah is coming to subtract or coming to add. But Ramas has a whole different way. Ramasna Amar, time of Reb Shimon Mahacha. There's a source. There's a verse. The Sukkah Tiel itself. This verse is in Yeshaya. Sukkah Tiel itself. The Sukkah is supposed to be for to protect you from shade, Yaman Mechayev, and from the heat in the day. Ulamachsa Ulamistar Mizerem Umimatar, and to cover you from storms and from rain. Now, so in order for something to cover without 4 walls, that according to Reb Shimon, without 4 walls, it can't really come ahead. According to Reb Shimon, the Torah cannot go without 4. According to Reb Shimon, we need 4 walls. So if you are in a building with only 3 walls and it's pouring out there, and there's a very strong storm with strong winds, then at that point the rain could get in because it's going vertical, go into the open wall. So from the fact that the prophet tells us sukkah has to be for rain, as both sukkah is made to protect you, must be from here we see that you need 4 walls according to Reb Shimon. Now Lachel Moshe Messina is going to come and tell you that the third wall does not have to be complete. Okay, now that was an additional point for Reb Shimon. The rabbis didn't go with that. Okay, we're going with the new point. So we learned halacha is that we hold like the rabbis because we go with we have the rabbis against an individual, so we usually go with the majority. So the majority is that we need 2 walls plus a little bit. We need 3 walls, but it's not complete 3 walls. It's 2 walls plus a little bit. That little bit, where do we situate it? So that tefach, where do we place it? Amar Rav, ma'amidai kineged hayotzi. So according to Rav, we place it, and if you look on the picture on the left, you should have that in Rashi, that there is the 2 walls, and you place that little extra bit wherever you want to be, whether it's right next to either, so you have an L shaped, the 2 walls have to be an L shape, and you could go ahead and place it anywhere. You could go place that little bit anywhere where you want. And then we just turned to Zayin and Aleph to the top of 7-8. And you should go ahead, however, that little bit could be on either point of the L, but it should be slanted towards the opposite L, end of the L. So if you look on the top, there should be a picture on top. Right on top of the Gemara. So you see the L, and you see the little bit is slanted, and it should be aiming towards the end of it. Shasik Rav, and Rav was quiet. All the different sources say that if you do it this way, you should angle it. And Rashi explains because if it's angled towards, once it's angled towards the actual other side, it looks more like 4 walls than the other way around. Okay. Rav Simin v'ismei Rav Yeshua ben Levi Amar oislei tefach sheichid, that according to Rav Simai, and some say Rav Yeshua ben Levi Amar oislei tefach sheichid, you go ahead, and now this is a whole way to understand what exactly is this tefach, and according to them you have to make it an expanded tefach. It has to be slightly larger than your actual tefach. We'll see in a minute why. You have to place it not exactly flush with the end of the L. Rather, it has to be sort of a little away from the end of the L. How much? It has to be less. Has to be further away, but less than 3 tefachim. So if you look on the side, I guess on base on the number 2 over there, that you have the L. Then we have a little bit of a space, and then you have the actual wall. because the space itself is less than 3 tefachim. Then you have the tefach itself, the slightly expanded tefach, and to get a space which is less than 3 tefachim, we look like it's filled in by both sides. So therefore, we have on the third wall, it looks as if you have at least 4 tefachim, 3 tefachim of ear space, but we have the actual tefach making it complete. So you have 4 tefachim at least. 4 tefachim is the majority of a wall that's needed, because a wall has to be at least 7 tefachim, so 7 plus little. So we have a majority. So therefore, we can already start seeing a wall being created, and that's why we let it. That's why the third wall is okay with the extra airspace, the loved airspace, plus a little bit of a tefach. Now, Amar Rav Yehuda, Sukkah ha'oisi k'mavoi k'sheira. So Rav Yehuda went on to say that a sukkah, which is made like a mavoi, which is now a mavoi is, if you look on the second picture over there where it says Gimel, a mavoi is an alleyway. So usually an alleyway has a wall on your left, it has a wall on your right, rather your right and your left. And so you have a wall on both sides, and the front and the back is open as you walk down the alley. So Rav said you can even make a wall that's not an L. Rather, there are 2 walls again facing each other. Where do you put that extra tefach? Wherever you want. At the edge, you have 4. So now, if I have a wall, so if I have, show about pictures, but so if I have, this is my wall number 1, this is my wall number 2, so I can have a wall here, and where does the extra tefach go? The extra tefach go here, it could go over there, it could go over there, or go any other 4 points that are open. You just put the tefach there, and you're fine. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. Simon v'Ismei Rabbi Shua ben Levi oiseli pas arba. Yeah. Now, Simon v'Ismei Rabbi Shua ben Levi amar oiseli pas arba mashu. However, if you look in picture number 1, 2, 3, the third one on the right in the Gemara, that over there they say oiseli pas arba mashu. No, you should go ahead. If you do this mavoi where you have these 2 facing, not the L, however you do these 2, then you have to have a board at one of the ends, 4 tefachim wide. Umashu. The daifin has to be within 3 tefachim of the daifin. Now you have 4, plus you have loved of 3, and you have a complete wall. Because he was saying that you're not allowed to do that. You can't have a sukkah with a little bit, it has to be an L. A sukkah with 2 walls facing each other, not connected, that is like an alleyway, is not going to work unless you fully pretty much have a complete third wall, because at that point it's not a sukkah anymore. It's a alleyway. You're walking through it. So you have to close off. We had a few ways to understand right now, right? One way is that the extra tefach could be adjacent to one of the L's. And the other way was that little tefach should be a little slanted. And then we went on to the way, which is the halacha at this point, that you have to have the L, but you have to have a little bit of, when you have that extra tefach, the third wall, first of all, it has to be a little larger than usual, than your average tefach. And it has to be 3 tefachim away from the wall. In order to give us, with the halacha of lavud, we have a wall worthy of 4 tefachim, which is the majority of a halachic wall, and that's how we get our third wall. And then we just learned also that if you create like a mavoi, if you have 2 walls facing each other, it's not going to work. Some say it will work with the extra tefach at any of the 4 points, and then we just learned that the last one said no, it's not going to work, and you actually have to have a full 4 tefach wall within 3 tefachim of the one of the side walls, giving you a full wall of 7. Basically, you cannot create a wall. In order to have this halacha, that the third wall is to be just a tefach, has to be based on the L-shaped sukkah, not on 2 walls facing each other.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you get the schach to stay on top of that?
Which one? On when they're facing each other, or which one?
Well, almost any of them. It seems to me that you need a little bit more support to get schach up there. I mean, if you're just using
balance it. Well, if you balance a beam correctly on that little tefach, and then you nail it, and you cross it against one of the L's, it should be able to hold up. I mean, you can have on top as many beams as you want, but even on one of the points, you could have a small sliver of something coming down. That sliver, when we're going to ignore that sliver, because it's not a tefach wide, it's nothing, right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, hope that helps. But yeah, it's a good question. Now, Yeah. Okay. Now we're up to about 12 lines or 15 lines from the top. Kulava dummy is the first one on the line on set on Zion Aleph, which is 7-8. Now, Umayshna Hasam the Ka'amr Sagi Tefach Shacha Kumashna Hafa Ka'amr Boi Pas Arba. Okay, I already explained this. I jumped the gun. So the question is, why is it by the L-shaped by the L-shaped sukkah and the third wall only has to be a little bit of a tefach? Why is it by the Mavui sukkah when you have the two beams, when you have the two walls facing each other, you need a 4 tefach board at the head of one of the openings. When you have two walls, you have two walls as you have two walls on an L, then all you need is one little tefach. But over here, where you don't have the two walls next to each other, you have two random walls opposite each other, and it doesn't look like a sukkah, it looks like an alleyway, then you need a complete 4 tefach board on the front within 1 tefach, 3 tefach on the wall to give us 7 tefach. Now, Sagi, we're going back to the L-shaped sukkah. Sagi le betefach we said that it's good enough with a relaxed tefach. That is when you don't have two walls. Pas arba any like you said that. Sorry, my bad. Amarava, Rav Amarava. Last word on the line. Last Rav is on the last word on the line. Amarava. We're about to say 3 different. It's really Rabba. We changed the alpha to hey. Amarava. And Rabba is giving us three versions of Rabba coming to tell us what he holds is the halacha of the 2 walls plus a little. Amarabba, the Eino Nitaris Ela B'Tzur Pesach. It's only permitted with a Tzur Pesach. And when we say that you can have a sukkah with an L, according to Rabbi, it says when we're going with the idea you can only have a sukkah with an L. He holds that not only do you have that, you have to have that L, and not only do you have to have that extra, not only do you have to have that space of 3, and not only do you need to go ahead. And not only do you need to go ahead and have that one tefach, then you still need from that one tefach. Beyond that, you need an additional sliver of another tefach further down and make a cross beam on top. It's a little, you know what? It's there. It's on the side of the Gemara. If you look on the third picture on the side, you see the L. You see the
picture from the top.
Yeah. You see 2 beams, and then you see like a cross beam on top going across. So you have to create a tzuras pesach. You have to create it has to look like an opening to make it, even though it's open, but there's a cross beam on top, making it like a doorway. And making it a doorway helps us out, helps us extend the wall. That's one way to learn it. And another way to learn Rava is that it's also the third way to understand it is that if you want to go ahead, it's up to you. If you want to go ahead and create a source of Pesach, a beam going on top, you could. It's up to you. You don't have to. And the last way to understand it, that it also needs the last way to understand it is that you have that you have to have a source of Pesach. So this is. I have a very rudimentary drawing here. This is the first way, that you have the L-shaped. I'll show it in a minute. Then you don't have the 3. You have half a tefach there, you have half a tefach there, and then you have a cross beam going across. That's the first way to understand it. So you have an L, and then you don't have the lava. You don't have the extra 3 tefachim. You have a half a tefach right away. You have half a tefach 7 tefachim down. You have a cross beam across, so even though it's open, at least it's a form of a doorway. So it's at least it looks like it's part of the wall, just a very large doorway. That's the first way to understand. That was the first line of Rava. The second line of Rava, that either you could do the first way, and you don't have to have that loved business. You put a half a tefach right away, have a cross beam, have another half a tefach at the end of it, or you could do the loved. You could have the 3 with a tefach, or you could have the 3 open space with a tefach. And that either way. Or the last thing was you have to have both. No, you have to have the three in order to do the open wall, the third open wall, you have to have 3 open tefachim for lavud, less than 3 tefachim for a lavud. You have to have a tefach for you have to have a tefach. Then you have to have an additional, I guess, you have to get up to 7. So you already have 4. You have to have an additional at least 2 tefachim with another tefach beam going up with a cross beam going on top. So either it's he ignored the lavud business and he just went with the complete cross beam going across, half a tefach, and 7 across, or he went ahead and you could do either or he said you have to do a combination. You have to have the lavud, you have to have your tefach, then you have to have your cross beam as well.
Does your cross beam have to be a specific size? Or does it have to be?
And at least, I'm assuming it at least has to complete the 7th tefach.
No, but I mean, not length.
I don't know. That'll be does it? I mean, that would be a halachas of Erevin. I'm assuming not. Maybe I don't know. Not that it could be has to be a tefach. No, I don't think so. If you think about, I mean, it could be if you're learning from Erevin. And Erevin, the cross beam, they could use what? You could use a wire.
Yeah.
You don't need anything. Rav Ashi asked Rav Kahana of the tefach sachok, and Rav Ashi found Rav Kahana that was doing this relaxed tefach because of its source of Pesach, and he was also doing a source of Pesach. So he was doing like the most stringent manner according to Rabbah. That we had the three tefachim of open space. You had the tefach, which by itself already is the majority of a wall because that's 4 tefachim. We look at the open space at least since less than 3 tefachim. We look at the open space at least as if it is filled up. And then not only that, he went on and further down the line, he created a door frame. So he's doing in the most stringent side of Rabbah. Don't you learn like Rabbah and Rabbah? That Rabbah really says that you could also have a choice of Pesach. You could choose which one you want. So I'm like, then no, I go with the stringent, the third opinion of Rabbah that you need both. Okay, now we're going to go into an interesting little subject of how we compare the halachas of Shabbos, how the halachas of Shabbos are affected by Sukkah. Shabbos, when Shabbos lands on Sukkot, how that's going to be affected. Interestingly, only on that one Shabbos a year, there'll be some leniencies that we can apply from Sukkot. Amar Rava, the Shabbos also on Shabbos of Sukkot. Migu the have it doifin in a Sukkah, have it doifin in Shabbos. Very interestingly, that this halacha of the third wall is you could have a little bit of the third wall. That's halacha Meshim Sinai taught to us only concerning Sukkot, and this was never taught concerning an Eruv on Shabbos. But I have a question. Let's say I have a house, and my house is adjacent to a Rishus Harabim, to a public domain. And usually I cannot go ahead and carry from my house into the public domain. That's also, you're not allowed to carry from domain to domain. Now, on Sukkot, I go ahead and I build a sukkah on the public domain. And the sukkah that I build is this L-shaped sukkah with a little bit of the third wall. Now, that is not enough on the halachas of Shabbos to make that to create that as a private domain. But on Sukkot, I am fulfilling my obligation of Sukkot. So am I allowed now to take food? How do I eat in the sukkah? I'm allowed to take food from my house and bring it in to my sukkah, which is built on a public domain. But according to the laws of Shabbos, it has a halachic status of a public domain because it doesn't have a complete 4 walls. And according to Sukkot, it is a private domain because it is my little sukkah where I'm living in. It's my house. It's my bayis. It's my house for 7 days. So what do you do? So and that we say, since on Shabbos of Sukkah, since it's a halachic sukkah, it makes it as a private domain just for that one Shabbos a year. The Shabbos since Sukkot is a proper house for Sukkot, is also going to be a private domain on Shabbos of Sukkot, but not on any other Shabbos of the year. Therefore, I could go ahead and carry from the sukkah, from my house into the sukkah, and vice versa. So that's what we mean. Amarava the Shabbos migu dahavi doifin in Sukkot, havi doifin in Shabbos. Now, migu means since. Since it works for us on Sukkot, for halach of Sukkot, it will also work for us for halach of Shabbos. So, Esvei Baya, Umi Amrina migu. Esvei say, do we actually say the since? Do we utilize this migu, which means since? Natani doifin Sukkah, kedoifin Shabbos, ubevat shloyeh bein kana. That we learn that a wall of a sukkah is really like the wall of Shabbos, not the opposite. Sukkot has to be like Shabbos. Ubevat shloyeh bein kana. As long as you're not utilizing reeds and maybe you're using a tefach. But however, it's not going to work. I'm sorry. The only thing that doesn't, besides for the fact, as long as there are 3 tefachim between each reed, so you could go ahead and build a sukkah made out of reeds, 3 tefachim, at least 3 tefachim apart. You say Shabbos al sukkah, but not only that, Shabbos is more stringent than sukkah. Shabbos in Nitares el ba'ime umeruba ala pirates. Now let's say I go ahead and build a sukkah with it has to be 7 tefachim wide, and my whole sukkah is made out of thin reeds, 3 tefachim apart, less than 3 tefachim apart. So there's much more open space than closed space. But since you're utilizing the halacha of lavud, I have tons of beams going across with plenty of airspace in between. But I could see that we halachically look at the sukkah as enclosed because each of the beams close off. Each of those reeds we look as one complete wall due to lavud. Now, if you do the math, again, there's much more open space than closed space. But however, if you do that on Shabbos, it's not going to work because on Shabbos you are able to utilize lavud. It's only on condition that at the end of the day, when you do the math, there's more closed space, physical closed space than open space. So we see that Sukkos is Shabbos is more stringent than Sukkos. My lavi seira Shabbos to Sukkah v'yamrin migu. Do we not say that it's true? I mean, you have a very nice idea that it's Sukkos and what you're going to do, how you're going to carry. But at the end of the day, we see Sukkos, Shabbos is more stringent than Sukkos. So wouldn't we say that we're not going to go ahead and apply the leniencies of Sukkah to Shabbos? Like you say, your Shabbos to Alma, al Shabbos to Sukkah. No, what I mean to say is that the overall is true. Shabbos is more stringent than Sukkah, but the Shabbos of the regular year is more stringent than the Sukkah of the Shabbos of Sukkah. In the Shabbos of Sukkah, we're willing to be more lenient. So let's see now me say we're Sukkah the Alma, Sukkah the Shabbos. Let's go the opposite. Let us just say that the Sukkah, a regular Sukkah. Let's learn the regular Sukkah from Sukkah of Shabbos. That we know that in order to complete the third wall, you need to have at least a tefach wide, a slightly enlarged tefach plus the 3 of lavud. That we understand that a mavoi. Let us say the opposite. That let's say I go ahead and according to Rabbah, this is I guess Rabbah. According to Rabbah, you are lenient and you say that if let's say you have a mavoi, which is an alleyway, you permit one to go ahead and close off the end of the alleyway to make it a private domain with just a lechi, which one beam going up. All you need is a one beam. Doesn't have to be a tefach. It can be extremely thin. That's all you have to do in order to signify that this is a closed space. So according to you, we should go ahead and then, if it works for Shabbos, meaning I have 2 walls going like this, and I just have a little beam going up, that should be enough, and I can throw schach on top, and it should be a kosher sukkah. Now we learned really it doesn't work that way, right? If I have 2 walls facing each other, I need a complete wall over here in order to finish it up. But if it works for Shabbos, it should also work for sukkahs. If it works for Shabbos, so you want to go ahead and say that we apply the leniencies of sukkah onto the halachas of Shabbos, the Shabbos of sukkah, of Shabbos of sukkahs. So also the opposite. The leniencies of Shabbos should be applied to the sukkah itself, and therefore, I have a mavoi. If I have 2, I have a mavoi. I have 2 walls facing each other, and there's just in order to close that up, the halach of Shabbos, all you need is a little beam at one of the corners. That should be kosher for sukkah. Throw schach on top, and it should work. Even though during the regular sukkahs it might not work, but on Shabbos of sukkah it should work. So the answer is we answered back. He said, yeah, you're right, by the way. I agree. It's true. You could do that. On Shabbos of Sukkah, I could be more lenient. Now, but why didn't he mention it? He only mentioned the leniency of Sukkah that's applied to Shabbos, that the 2 plus little will work to create a private domain. But he didn't. Why did I not go ahead and write the other way around? That the leniencies of Shabbos will apply to Sukkah, and on Shabbos of Sukkah, even though we just learned, if I have 2 walls facing each other, I need pretty much a complete third wall in order to create a kosher sukkah. But on Shabbos that lands on sukkahs, I could go ahead and be lenient and just utilize one little beam. So why didn't I write that? I want to go ahead and say, I wanted to write the more novel idea. It's more novel to say that we could apply the leniencies of sukkah onto Shabbos. Shabbos is usually more stringent. So then you could do the math yourself. That if I go ahead and say that the leniencies of Sukkot are applied to Shabbos, I could go ahead and say for sure Shabbos is usually more stringent. Now it's more stringent because if you carry on Shabbos, you're going to be you're liable to be killed. While if you don't fulfill any mitzvah on Sukkot, no one's killing you. Therefore, it's going to be much more stringent. So then, obviously, the leniency of the Shabbos we could apply to Sukkot. Now, Gufa Amarava, we're about to turn on to 7b. That we're on top of 7b. Gufa Amarava, or again, I think it's Rabba, I assume. Gufa Amar Rabba, I think. Amazing. If I have a schach, which is on top, if I throw schach on top of a mavoy, which are two walls going straight down with a little bit of a lechi, it's going to be permitted on Shabbos. Not only that, we already spoke about Pesi Biaris, but now this idea was that you used to have a well in the desert. In order to create, there's a picture over there. That in order to go ahead and a diagram rather, there in order to create a wall, in order to draw the well from the well on Shabbos, you used to put 3 L-shaped bracket, like 4 of them at each corner. Now, neither of them were on Shabbos. We said that that's permitted. Now, that's not a kosher sukkah. To have a tefach on each way of each corner is not a kosher sukkah. But on Shabbos, since this works for Shabbos, I could throw schach on top according to Rabbah, and it will be kosher. Now, so now we have, according to, I guess maybe Rabbah, according to Rabbah, we have 3 different times when we leniency is a Shabbos. So why do we need all 3? Just mention one. If I go ahead and I just mention the idea that a mavoy, the 2 walls facing each other, plus the little beam which on Shabbos works, and according to Rabbah, even on Shabbos of Sukkot, it will also work for those schach on top. If I mention that, that's because at the end of the day, I had 2 real walls. I had 2 solid walls on the side facing each other. I've got a pesed biyaris, but this idea, when there just has 4 little beams in each corner shaped like an L, and the desert, I've got a pesed biyaris. The likish they define is now saying over there you have no real walls. So therefore, I had to mention this idea of pesed biyaris. I had to go ahead and mention the idea of that you could throw schach on top of this well with the 4 walls in each corner. If I went ahead and just mentioned this idea of pesed biyaris, which are those 4 that you could throw schach on top of the 4 walls of the well in the desert, but the schach on top of to put schach on top of a mavoy, which are those 2 walls facing each other, that you don't have 4 walls, perhaps not. At least over there by the well, you have something in each corner. So we could pretend that there's 4 walls. But by the case of the mavoy, you don't have 4 walls. You only have 2 walls. So I thought maybe over there it would be more it would be more of an ability to create a sukkah out of the wall, out of the 4 beams in the 4 corners, than the mavoy, which are facing each other. If I mentioned both of them, that's because maybe the reason why it's permitted is because we're applying Shabbos to Sukkah. And Sukkah is more lenient, therefore, since it works for Shabbos or for Sukkot. But to go from Schach, to go from Sukkot to Shabbos, which is the first one that he mentioned, this idea that if I have a Sukkah in a private domain of only 2, if I have a Sukkah of 2 walls plus a little in a public domain on Shabbos of Sukkot, we'll consider that as a private domain, although according to the rest of the year, it's not a private domain, it's a public domain. I needed to write all 3. Yeah.
Does the sukkah have to be a certain distance away from the house?
Well, it's going to have to be flush against the house. Now, you could go create a neighbor if you want, I guess. But the neighbor's not going to work if it's a public domain. It has to be flush against the house. But usually during the week, usually on regular Shabbos of any other year, the second you walk over that doorpost, even if your sukkah is standing, so let's say you leave up your sukkah after sukkahs, and the next Shabbos comes along, which is not sukkahs, if you carry into that sukkah, you're chayit for Shabbos, but on sukkahs you're not. Yes, the halacha is right now that we have 2 walls plus the little bit, 2 walls, an L-shaped wall, plus 3 open, less than 3 open, plus a wide tefach is considered a good sukkah.